So the abstract way to write a power of a product is AM raised to the n equals A to the n, M to the n. Okay, so this one's going to be similar to distributive property like what we did last semester, but we're going to be distributing exponents. So for our first example, we are going to have 2x raised to the third power, okay? The most common mistake that people make here is that they write, okay, well that equals 2x cubed, all right? Or they write 6x cubed. If you write 6x cubed, that means you multiplied the 2 and the 3. We're not multiplying the 2 and the 3. If we were, it would be a big 3 in front, okay? But it's not, it's an exponent. We are going to raise 2 to the third power. So this equals 2 to the third power, x to the third power. So it looks just like this rule. We took n and we've made it an exponent on a and an exponent on m. 2 to the third power we can actually figure out, unlike x to the third power. 2 to the third power means 2 times 2 times 2. We've got x cubed at the end. And we can simplify 2 times 2 times 2. That's 2 times 2 is 4, and 4 times 2 is 8. So it equals 8x cubed. Okay. Negative 4x squared squared. For this one, we have a negative in front. That could make this confusing. I like to separate it and make my negatives a -1. Now I've got -1 squared. I've got 4 squared to the 4th because we multiply our exponents there. Okay, remember exponent to an exponent, just like Mr. OJ taught us, means we multiply the exponents. We multiplied the 2 and the 2. We did not add them, we multiplied them. -1 squared means -1 times -1, which is +1. So I've got 1 times 4 squared is 16 times x to the 4th. Okay, we know what 1 times 16 is. It's 16. X to the 4th. All right, we'll do a couple more just like that. So we've got -5 cubed. We're going to distribute our cubed to everything in the exponents. So that includes our -1, our 5, and our x squared cubed is x to the 6th because we multiply the 2 and the 3. We do not add exponents when it's an exponent raised to an exponent.
Don't do it.
Okay, exponent to an exponent, we multiply. 1 cubed, -1 cubed means -1 times -1 times -1. All right, so think about that. -1 times -1 equals +1. Now we have +1 times -1. That equals -1. Okay. Next, we've got 5 cubed. So that's, let me separate these guys. 5 times 5 times 5. 5 times 5 is 25. And 25 times 5 is 125. All right, so we've got our pieces. We've got -1 times 125 times x to the 6th. Okay, that -1 times the 125 gives us -125 x to the 6th. Yay!
Yay!
Okay, last one. In this little section, we've got 1/2 x squared cubed.
Oh no.
Fractions. So we're still going to distribute our cubed, but to a fraction, we distribute it to the top and the bottom of the fraction. So that's going to give us 1 cubed over 2 cubed. That's another way of saying to the third power. And x squared to the third power is x to the 6th. Now 1 to the third power, 1 times 1 times 1, is just going to give us 1 on the top of our fraction. So we're going to have 1 over, and just like earlier, 2 to the third power is 8. So I have 8 on the bottom of my fraction. Also think of it as 1/2 times 1/2 times 1/2, and that would give you 1/8. And what's weird is it gets smaller as we multiply fractions. They do not get bigger. That gives us 1/8 x to the 6th. Right? So that's the first little section, warm-up problems. Let's move on to some harder examples. For number 5, we've got -3x squared y to the 5th squared. For this one, we have to distribute our squared to more than 2 things. We're distributing it to 3 or 4, depending on how you think of it. So I like to separate my negative. Other teachers do different things, so make sure you listen to your teacher. Sometimes they like you to keep it as just one whole negative number. So I'm going to have -1 squared. Also, one thing I forgot to point out, when you have negatives and you're raising them to a power, always put parentheses.
Always put parentheses.
X squared raised to the 2nd power is going to give us x to the 2 times 2. I'm going to write it out this time. And we've got y to the 5 times 2. We multiply our exponents. When it's exponent to exponent, we multiply them. So -1 squared means negative times negative. If you guys remember the baby. Okay, negative times negative. Here's his hair. He's cute. Negative times negative equals positive. So we've got +1. We don't have to write that positive. I'm just putting it there. We've got x to the 4th. Y'all, I forgot the 3. We had a 3 in there, and y'all didn't even say anything. We have to square the 3 also. Okay, and then we got x squared times 2, and y to the 5 times 2. All right, so +1. 3 squared is 9, so it's 1 times 9, okay? X to the 2 times 2, give us x to the 4th. And 5 times 2 is 10, so we got y to the 10th, okay? We can simplify this a little more right here. 1 times 9 is 9, x to the 4th, y to the 10th. The next problem is a doozy. 2a squared b to the 5th c squared a b cubed c squared raised to the 2nd power. We're squaring both of them. We are going to do them separately. I'm going to draw a line to separate them, simplify them separately, and then we'll combine them together. We'll multiply both of them together. My square needs to go to my 2. It needs to go to my a squared, so that would give me a to the 2 times 2. That would give me b to the 5 times 2. And c to the 0 times 2. No, this is c to the 1 times 2. Don't forget, if it doesn't have an exponent, the exponent is 1. Okay, 2 squared is 4. A to the 2 times 2 is a to the 4th. B to the 5 times 2 is b to the 10th. And then c squared times, and then we're going to multiply it to what simplifies over here. Over here we've got -1 squared, 3 squared, a to the 1 times 2, b to the 3 times 2, and c to the 2 times 2. Okay, -1 squared we know is +1. 3 squared is 9. Then we've got a squared, b to the 6th, c to the 4th. All right, and now we can just simplify this part. So that gives us 9a squared, b to the 6th, c to the 4th. All right, one last step. Now we multiply the like terms together. Okay, I've got a 4 and a 9. Those multiply to equal 36. I've got a to the 4th and a squared. Now we're multiplying a to the 4th times a squared. So if you remember from my first lesson, when we're multiplying, we add the exponents. We add the exponents.
Add the exponents.
Okay, so that becomes a to the 4 plus 2. Same thing with the b's and the c's. So we got b to the 10 plus 6 and c to the 2 plus 4. We are adding the exponents now. So our final answer is 36, a to the 6th, b to the 16th, c to the 6th.